Okay, guys, welcome back to another live stream. Of course, today we are talking about Prada's latest fashion collection, which I think is very interesting, and that's obviously why I wanted to talk about it. So, without wasting any time, let's first talk about Prada and where Prada really sits in the current fashion market as things stand today. I mean, Prada is a brand that has been run by Miuccia Prada for many, many years, and Raf Simons came on board in 2020. Now, it's been very interesting having Raf Simons as part of the Prada realm of things because I feel like for many, many seasons they've been finding this perfect balance between ugly chic and the creative use of color by Miuccia Prada with the bold graphics and oversized boxy tailoring of Raf Simons. I think with certain collections, some of them have looked very Raf Simons. With other collections, they have been very Miuccia Prada dominant, and there have been a few collections where I feel like they found a perfect balance. Now, when Raf Simons joined initially in 2020, I was really excited because I felt like for the most part, Prada menswear seemed to be a bit of an afterthought compared to the women's wear. You know, when you look at some of the women's wear collections, they were fantastic and amazing. But then you looked at the menswear collections, and a lot of them were a bit dry and bare bones. And so it really removed a lot of my interest from Prada. But I think since Raf Simons has come in, and that was why I was very happy that he joined, I think he has brought a certain level of, fun and playfulness to the menswear. So yeah, other with Raf Simons, of course, he has kind of become this sort of workhorse in fashion. He's a designer that has been at so many different houses, whether that's Jil Dior, Calvin Klein, and now, of course, Prada, and his eponymous label did, close in 2022. Now, Prada has seen a lot of success. Prada is actually one of those brands that across the board has done really well in a market where a lot of other brands and companies have struggled. When you read a lot of the financial figures from Prada, Prada was seeing double-digit growth in the first half of last year. They continue seeing growth. Miu Miu was one of the fastest growing brands. Then BOF recently had a very great article that I think you should check out if you have a BOF subscription, where they essentially pointed out reasons why Prada has been growing in a very challenging luxury market where a lot of other luxury brands have really been struggling. And so I think all testament goes to Prada. I think one of the big reasons why is because Prada is one of the few brands right now that actually has an identity, and an identity that people love. When you think of a lot of brands, and I say this all the time, you have the likes of, I don't know, Xenia and The Row and all these quite luxury brands, Jil where they have their own identity, but across the board, a lot of their identities are very similar. And so as a customer, who do you really go to when there are so many options that look very similar? Whereas with Prada, with Miu Miu, they have a stronger visual identity and clothing identity that separates them from the pack and allows people that are interested in dressing in a way that, shows that identity. And that's why I feel like they've been very, very successful financially, and they've really seen some significant growth. Is BOF the only site worth subscribing to, or are there others? Thank you. Yeah, I would say there are a few. Unfortunately, fashion is quite expensive in the sense that there are so many different subscriptions that you can subscribe to that are good. I think the best ones, in my opinion, are things like Miss Tweed, BOF, Vogue Business, Women's Wear Daily. Then you can also do things like the Financial Times, because the Financial Times, they don't have frequent fashion writing like Women's Wear Daily or BOF or whatever, but when they do, it's stuff that you really can't find anywhere else and figures that you will struggle to find anywhere else, to be honest. So I think they are really good, but once again, it becomes really, really expensive. So me personally, I've subscribed to BOF and that's it. I would love to subscribe to Women's Wear Daily and, the Financial Times, especially because I create content. However, it's just too expensive to do all of that at once. I'd literally be so broke. Hopefully one day, if my channel becomes bigger, I can invest the channel money into those subscriptions. But yeah, I would say BOF is like a good, if you're only going to subscribe to one, BOF is a good one to subscribe to. And I'm not saying this because I worked at BOF, by the way. Yes, Draper's is also a very good source for information, by the way. So yeah, moving into the latest collection by Prada, though, I think there are so many interesting elements to talk about, especially considering that this collection was on the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration as President of the United States of America. And so the first thing I really want to talk about is the set of the Prada show. I thought it was very interesting in starting to really understand the inspiration and the ideas behind this collection. Because when you look at the set has this sort of raw industrial metal structure, and it collides and clashes with the carpet that you guys can see on the screen. And it's almost like this idea of shifting things, and you look at the set and the scaffolding everywhere. You can see the scaffolding kind of divides people in the space. And it's kind of like a very interesting contradiction and contrast, because the space is massive, as you can see through the video. But that being said, the way that the space is divided contradicts the scale and almost makes it seem really tight and squeezed in. And when you look at a lot of the people that were at the show, they seemed that way. All of them were kind of scrunched into these tiny spaces, which I thought was very interesting. And I think that was also kind of a contrast that formed the basis of the clothing itself. It's kind of like seeing the contrast with two things that are not supposed to work together. It's like the big with the small, layering pajama pants with things that are associated with tailoring. That's what I always really love about Prada, and that's the fun side of Prada that I always appreciate. I want to see if I can get a video where you can see some of the people that are at the show to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. So you can see they are only allowed in this huge space. Look at the tiny space where they've allowed people to sit. So it almost gives you the sense that the space is restricted, even though it's very vast. I find that really, really interesting. You can see it again here in the runway show. I think the runway show video really shows this element very, very clearly also. And there are very interesting quotes, I think, from Miuccia Prada and Ras Simmons in the show notes that I wanted to highlight. Miuccia Prada said herself that the idea of romance as something emotional and immediate, it's creativity without overthinking. She said it's also something deeply human. We were interested in the idea of instinct, in the notion of protecting and valuing our human instinct and liberating creativity. And I think this, since I've been covering Ras Simmons and Miuccia Prada, this is something and a theme that has been very ongoing throughout their time at Prada, is this idea of instinctual creativity, not really thinking. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is what they run with and they develop from there. It's even, Ras Simmons said in his Vogue interview that they've come to a point where when they design together, they just design what feels right. They don't actually want to dictate or make really complicated theories about what they're designing. Really, it just comes down to what feels right. And that is instinctive way of designing is something that I feel like in every single collection across all the interviews is something that they talk about a lot. It's not necessarily repetitive, even though there are themes that I'm going to talk about where you see them over and over and over again. But I think in this instinctual idea of designing, you're going to have elements that kind of come over and over again because those are the thoughts that come to mind with the designers, right? Ras Simmons, to quote him directly, said, "There are many small gestures that are inexplicable, instinctive. Increasingly in collections, we do not wish to limit ourselves. What attracts us is the opposite, an unconscious dialogue between ideas coming from everywhere, and then allowing them to sit together in a way that seems uncommon and new." And I really want to emphasize what Ras Simmons said there about allowing them to sit together in a way that seems uncommon and new, because this is such a big theme in their Prada, right? It's taking things that aren't supposed to be paired together. Like, look there, you can see sort of pajama pants with Western boots with tailoring. Those are three things that they do not belong in the same look at all. Why would Western boots be paired with pajama pants that's paired with tailoring? But that's what they do. They kind of mix things that are odd. And it's also an ode to Miuccia Prada herself, right? This idea of ugly chic. Miuccia Prada is very famous and known for mixing and matching, contrasting patterns, prints, colors that supposedly are not supposed to make sense, but somehow she makes it work. And that's how we even came up with the term like ugly chic. These are things that are supposed to look ugly. They're supposed to look unwearable. They're not supposed to go together, but either way, she still pairs them together and she puts them together. So that's a very Prada code. But I like, since Ras Simmons has been on board, I like the fact that they've kind of developed that code, not just into the prints and the patterns, but into a certain way of doing things. And then also in pairing garments that aren't supposed to work together, pairing things that don't make sense. And that's also shown in the set. You look at the set, there's a clear contrast of things that aren't supposed to go together. The set looks very brutalist. It looks very probably more industrial than brutalist, right? Very, very industrial, but then you have this soft, really nice carpet that the models are walking on, right? That's a very, very weird and strange contrast. It's having these big, boxy silhouette blazers, however, having these tiny lapels. You know, you have Western boots, but then on the Western boots, you look at the print and there are these floral prints or these camo floral prints. Those two things are in big contrast with each other, and there's a very, very clear juxtaposition with those two things. So it's really interesting. And that's why I honestly love this collection. There were other themes in this collection that you can see very clearly. There was a lot of shearling. I saw on social media a lot of people were wondering why there's so much shearling. And that's something that they did talk about. It's kind of this idea of taking things, and it's still in the spirit of taking things that aren't supposed to make sense, where we see shearling as something that's used as a lining for garments a lot. When you think of winter jackets, it's used in the lining of the hoods. But what they've done, they've flipped it on its head and they've changed this idea and transformed it where now the shearling is on the outside. So the shearling, and how you would view shearling if you actually had something that was lined with shearling and did it, like took it from the inside out, is exactly what they are exposing. It's almost like a focus on things that we take for granted and things that are on the interior and pushing those things into the exterior. So here you can see there's a big, big focus on that, even on the back, and on the detailing is very interesting. Something I thought was really cool in this collection too were the bags. The bags are really nice. They almost had this Western vibe to it, but you saw like the Prada bowling bags in interesting designs. I think those will go well. And this is why Prada is so successful. I think they are able to take these interesting ideas, but at the same time do it in a way where everything is wearable. And that's something that is a big focus on Prada. Yes, it's fun. Yes, they play with these ideas, but you take the different garments on an individual level and everything on its own is very wearable. The tailoring is wearable. The boots are very nice. The bags are really amazing. You know, yes, they're pairing pajama pants with blazers, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But in the Prada world, it makes sense. But if you buy those things as separate items, it works. Something I also found really fun, actually, was this continued focus. And you tend to see this as a theme when you look at all the Prada collections under Ras Simmons and Miuccia Prada. You start to see themes that come over and over again. They play a lot with layering. And I think something that is very inherent to Prada as a brand is the styling. I think the styling is very, very important when you talk about Prada, because there's something to be said about how things are styled and why that leads to good sales. That is definitely the case with Miu Miu, and it's also the case with Prada. They have played a lot with layering. You can see here a shirt under a shirt. They did jackets under jackets. And this is a theme that they play with all the time. I mean, if I can remember a recent collection that I reviewed, the Spring Summer 25 collection, you look at that collection, and I put it on the screen here, where they're playing with layering in this way. But in this way, it's actually an optical illusion where it looks like a cardigan worn over a polo shirt, but actually it's all just one piece. So this idea of layering and seeing how layering can affect the shape and the silhouette on the wearer is something that they've been playing with season on season. Tarek says the jumper gave Kiko vibes. I can see what you mean. I can see what you mean. Denmark Hill saying she hates the term ugly chic. Whether she hates it or not, I think when we use the term ugly chic, we are trying to bring across a certain understanding of things. It's more of like a descriptive thing. So whether she likes it or not, I mean, I'll keep saying it because when I say ugly chic, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Meaning, you know, ugly chic is mixing prints and patterns that aren't supposed to work and would typically be seen as ugly, but it kind of works because Miuccia Prada's taste level is just that high. That's what we are referring to when we say ugly chic. So that's up to her if she likes it or not. We're still going to use it. Good morning, guys, by the way. The guys in the chat. But yeah, it's really, I find it really fun. Even you can see these kind of paisley prints once again being used in the hoods. And it's funny because this goes back into the flip because sometimes the lining of hoods are that interesting, like on the interior, and they're kind of exposing that in the exterior with the shearling. That was really, really fun. Let's see. What do you guys think about the Western boots? A lot of people I've seen aren't fans of the Western boots, but I absolutely love them. And the main reason why I love them is because every single brand that does Western boots, for the most part, I'm thinking of off the top of my head recently, like Pharrell Williams when he had that Louis Vuitton show where they had those Western boots. It's too inspirational of Western boots themselves. So it is normally the brown color and that tone, the tan tone with Western embroidery on it. And it's like, why don't people make these things more fun with interesting colors and interesting fabrics rather than just making Western boots that I could buy in any Western shop in the US? I want to say this. Some of this kind of looks like Sabato's Gucci. Yeah, I guess you can say that in a sense because a lot of Prada, the focus is on wearability. And therefore, if the focus is on wearability, that's also a big focus on Sabato's Gucci. So you're going to have some pieces that really are just clean cut tailoring, boxy silhouette blazers and stuff like that. So yes, I can see how you would see those similarities across both collections, to be honest. Yeah, the salmon and stow and stain toe boots on the show look nice. Yeah, when we look at the images close up, it'll be good to look at those because I like the sort of scuff toe shoes. It really mimics the gestures that humans have when they wear these things and the interactions that people have when they wear boots and how it changes over time. I mean, me personally, when I wear boots, the toes always scuff because I walk weird. So my toes always scrape on things, and over time, the toe bit starts to wear on my boots, and it's always so annoying. But if that's already baked into the design, that's almost like a chic way of looking at what is natural when you wear clothing anyway. That's what I find really interesting. Let's see. Menswear collections look normal to wear every day, any day, compared to women. It's like mix matching children's clothes. So I guess you don't like the Prada women's wear collections. That's interesting. I wouldn't go as far to say it's like mismatching children's clothes. Um, I definitely wouldn't say that. This had a RAF written all over it with a sprinkle of Miuccia and the floral patterns, brooches, and jewelry. Yeah, um, this was definitely more of a RAF collection. It did remind me of the kind of thing that Raf Simons did at Calvin Klein. Lots of people were hating on how the pants were too tight for the boots, but low-key it was intentional. Yeah, I talked earlier about the whole point of this collection is taking things that aren't supposed to work together and taking things that are weird to pair together and focusing on that as a theme. So that's literally, they did that deliberately. That's what they were going for. That's why you have pajama pants with tailoring and Western boots. That's why. See some of the last looks. I really do like a lot of the fabrics and colors that they use also, because I think that's a really fun part of Prada. And for people that don't know, a lot of times with Miuccia Prada and Ras Simmons, the menswear and women's wear collections are actually tied together. So the menswear collection almost forms as a starting point for the womenswear collection. That's why the sets are always similar under Ras Simmons and Miuccia Prada. A lot of the garments are carried over, but I think they are made a bit more fun and playful with the women's wear. It's almost like they're indirectly telling us that men don't like to have fun with their clothes. So we're gonna make it simple with the menswear shows and expand on those ideas and make them, more fun in the future. Fur jackets reminds of Dries for winter 20. Floral shoes reminds me of Balenciaga spring summer 17. Okay, I know both of those both of those collections you're referring to, but I guess you could do that with anything. Like I could look at any garment and be like, this very much reminds me of so and so show, right? Especially if you've reviewed that many shows like I have, where you could always have a playback to, oh, this very much looks like this. I mean, even okay, I'll give you an example. This that where the model, yeah, this look here literally looks like something that Heider Ackerman would design. So I feel like you could do that with a lot of looks for every single brand, to be honest. It would be fun to see someone flip it around, simplified women's collection and going crazy for men's. But I guess that would be that would be a huge gamble because to be honest, if we are being very honest, across the board, most men don't like to play around with clothing that much. Yes, people that follow this channel do, and we think of fashion in a fun way, but most men are not like that. Women are the people that have a higher tendency to actually have fun and have more fun with their clothing. Um, so that's something that I think needs to also be considered. But yeah, you guys can see here via Vogue Runway the relationship between the menswear shows and the women's wear shows. Like, look at the set of the Fall Winter 21 menswear show and then the Fall Winter 21 women's wear show. The same thing with Fall 2022 and so on and so forth. There's clearly a link between all the menswear collections that happen first and then what we see from the women's wear collections in the future, which means seeing this collection already gives you a sense of how the women's wear collection is going to look. So yeah, let's have a look at some of the detail shots because I really wanted to um, talk about some of the details in this collection. They also had these interesting accessories like amulets and stuff, which was so weird. I know this collection, when you read the show notes, they were talking about things like primitive urges and automatic responses and protection and themes like that. And so having amulets makes sense because, I mean, amulets are things that are seen as omens that protect you from evil and give you good luck and things like that. So a lot of people use amulets as a source of protection. That makes a lot of sense why they had those in the collections. These are the boots that I'm talking about, the Western boots, but they've made this camo print, what looks like a camo print from a distance, but it's actually a floral print, which is where I think Miuccia Prada was trying to get her own ideas into the collection. But moving forward, you can see it from a different angle. You can also see here, and this was a theme across a lot of the footwear, the toes are scuffed. So they've already been pre-scuffed, which is obviously an ode to how we interact with our clothing and how it actually comes after we've worn clothing for a while. I'm a big fan of the Western boots. Of course, like people were saying earlier, people were saying that the trousers are too skinny for the boots, but that is deliberate, and that's part of the concept of the collection. It's literally about having toughly tough leather suiting with silk evening wear or outerwear with loungewear. That's the whole point. You have some shearling. Something, so this is interesting, right? Something, as I was looking at this collection, you started to see a lot of references to American themes and American culture. Now, basketball, of course, is a sport that was created by James Naismith, who is a Canadian that created basketball in the US. So, basketball is, of course, seen as a very American sport. And Ras Simmons did allude to the fact that a lot of the ideas in this collection was inspired by and was an ode to the fact that Trump's inauguration is today. So the collection was literally the day before Trump's inauguration. So you started to see a lot of odes and suggestions to American culture. So that was one of the things that they did. So I was like, that's really interesting. They're having their own commentary on the political state of the US in their own fun and playful way. Do you guys think that this is going to be a thing that's going to catch on though? But do people want to wear basketball earrings? Is that a thing? Of course, once again, this is the idea that they've been working on of layering. As you guys can see, this is actually all one piece, which once again mirrors the piece that I was talking about from last season. They kind of do something like this, and they've done it for multiple seasons. Here is from Spring Summer 2025 menswear, where they've done this layering again, but it's also all just one piece. It's supposed to look like a cardigan over a polo. So once again, continual themes throughout each collection that continues on season to season. You saying, nah, people don't want to wear basketball earrings. I love the tight trousers, need to look like they are sprayed on. Yeah, I see that. Raf is having PTSD from his time at Calvin Klein. That was during Trump's first presidency. That's actually a good point. I wasn't thinking about that in terms of, yeah, Trump was the president when Raf was at Calvin Klein. Damn, time flies so fast. It's quite concerning. Here's something else that they've played with, really boxy and wide tailoring with tiny lapels. Now, obviously, this makes so much sense. It makes all the sense in the world for them to do this because normally, tailoring rules, when something is that boxy and big, you're not supposed to have small lapels because it looks ridiculous. But that's kind of the point of it. It's deliberately done that way to kind of change what we consider normal with clothing. And this is something that they do all the time. They've done it in so many different ways also. It's not just about lapels and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember what collection it was where they had this silhouette of garments that they use as a basis. Yeah, it was Spring Summer 24 menswear, where they had a specific silhouette of a shirt and a jacket, and they used that as the basis to form everything around it. So this is the collection here, where they use this silhouette of jacket as a basis for every other piece in the collection. So this was kind of like the base silhouette, the small lapels with the really boxy shoulders, the wide sleeves, the elongated sleeves, and then they made it into a jacket and a blazer, and then they've used this to make a shirt, the same silhouette, and then so it's kind of like they use one silhouette and we're trying to see how many times can we change the context of the silhouette even though the shape is exactly the same. So here they've done like a utility piece, the exact same silhouette. So these ideas, the more you look at product collections, the more that you see that Ras Simmons and Miuccia Prada, their Prada has certain elements and themes that they use every single season over and over and over and over and over again. And it's constant. Do I like the collection? I think it's okay. I wouldn't say it's Miuccia Prada or Ras Simmons' best work, this collection that we're talking about. Of course, I've just been talking about the ideas behind it, not necessarily what I personally think or what my personal viewpoint on it is. I think it's cool. I think it's very wearable. I was very interested in a lot of the bags. I thought a lot of the bags were amazing. Like these bags here. I thought these were really, really nice. Um, but I think, yeah, Miuccia Prada and Ras Simmons have both done better and more interesting collections, to be honest. What I do appreciate from them though is that they're not trying to over intellectualize what they're doing. With Raf Simons literally saying it's very instinctual, our process is about instinct. I like that they say that. Okay, Vert22 says I love it, but the styling is not my cup of tea. Interesting. Oh no, the leather on the bags looks like it's about to crack. That's a very Prada staple. They normally have bags that are supposed to look worn in. So that's actually the point. That's literally the point. They have a lot of pieces. If I go on their website, I could show you where they're like pre-worn. It's supposed to have a worn look. And that's, once again, a concept that we see across a lot of Prada collections is this idea of the relationship we have with the clothing we wear and how that transforms the clothing over time. That's why in this collection also the footwear is scuffed at the toe. It's supposed to look like that. It's deliberate. Prada is not always for introverts. What do you mean by that? I feel like you can wear Prada as an introvert. I don't think you need to be a crazy maximalist, ostentatious person to be able to pull Prada off. I think there's something there for everyone when it comes to Prada, to be honest. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't think you have to be that introverted to wear Prada. No, the worn out leather ate. Um, but yeah, so it's very interesting. I really do like the styling. I know someone was saying that the styling is not necessarily their cup of tea, but I really, really enjoyed it, to be honest. But these trousers are very skinny. They are very, very skinny. I think in a way though, they almost force your eye to look because they are so ridiculously skinny for the rest of the silhouette. Especially because the blazers and the jackets were so boxy and wide. The contrast is so vast. Let's see. The puffer gilets with the exposed shearling. Shearling obviously being a sense of protection. Let's see once again. It wasn't just the Western boots also. I think footwear in general, Prada they know what they're doing with the footwear. It's always really nice. Um, there were these other boots that reminded me of, these boots. This looks, the shape, especially with kind of the toe looking very bulbous. Ras Simmons likes a bulbous toe. This reminded me very much of the kind of thing that Ras Simmons would do at his eponymous label that obviously doesn't exist anymore. But it's these boots, the shape is so Raf to me. This rounded toe that looks slightly bulbous is so Raf. That is so so Raf, which is why I was like, this collection reminded me a lot more of Ras Simmons than Miuccia Prada, to be honest. The trousers are nice but so skinny, my thighs can feel it from here. Yeah, I mean, like Raf Simmons is known for the bunny boots, for example. These aren't, the toe is not as bulbous as the bunny boots, right? It's not as extreme, but you can see it though. You can see, you can see it there. That's how he likes the shape. Everything he does is kind of like that shape. Like if you look at, obviously these are like the bunny boots, really, really bulbous looking. But then you have like, what is it? The Raf Simmons, Dr. Martens collab. They kind of have that shape too. Yeah, look, if you look at the toe box, you can see the toe is a bit bulbous. The shape of the toe box is a bit bulbous. So it's kind of just what Raf does. It's a shape he likes. I love it too, actually. I really like it. Most people I've seen only wear black and white pieces that has the triangle logo. I mean, even within that, I think Prada do very, very interesting things though. There was a collection specifically, I think it was Fall Winter 21, but let me cross check. Yes, it was Fall Winter 21, where I thought they made pieces that were really commercial, but were really nice and people could, be hype beasts and have all the branding, right? Is this collection here where you look at the back of the jackets. Of course, you can't really see the back view where they had the triangle cutouts on the back, so you could still tell it was really Prada. The lining was really interesting on the bomber jackets. It was really cool. So even within the ultra commercial, let's just put the triangle on things, I think they still do interesting things. Tarek says, I love the cashmere triangles on leather or cotton tops. Tasteful touch. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Prada is nearly always derivative, but can be satirical and nearly always just ends up the right side of cool. Yeah, I totally agree. I think when I look at Prada, especially now under Raf Simons and Miuccia Prada, and this is more so the case with the menswear, because I think the women's wear is a lot more fun and more playful, and they play with a bit more ideas versus the menswear. With their collections, it almost seems like they are trying to find this perfect balance of wearability and making sure that everything in the collection is desirable to be worn, but at the same time trying to make it as playful as it is, so that even though their collections are super commercial and wearable, there are still fun and playful elements, whether that's the lining that they use, the colors and the prints, the triangular cutout, elongating the sleeve slightly, changing the silhouette, making it more boxy, pairing things in styling that aren't supposed to work together, like, leather jackets with pajama pants and Western boots, or Shearling gilets with loungewear and then boots, or, derbies with um, loungewear. That's just what they do. So they have a fun way of kind of playing with it, but they never take it too far. Let's continue on. Some more bags that I really loved. Here we see another one of those like floral camo prints, but this is obviously in a lighter shade on the Western boots. I don't really wear these style of boots, but if I ever was to, these are the kind of fun, playful Western boots I would wear. Here we just have the straight pajama looks. Now, obviously, going back to the American odes, now we have baseballs as a chain. So this once again is an ode to American society. The fact that Prada was had their show the day before the inauguration of Trump. So you see those ideas across the collection once again. But moving on. Let's see what else they have for us. Okay, just a different angle. And then once again, so they have a two set pajamas with Western boots. And these are like a more traditional color. Not necessarily like the design, but the color is. And it has the front toe box of a brogue, which is really cool also. Prada footwear to me is always really fun. Always enjoy what they do with the footwear. And then they've made like buckle, like Mary Jane versions of the Western boots in a low top version. I like that. Raf wants to go back to Calvin Klein so bad. Maybe. Maybe like someone was saying earlier, maybe it's the reminder of Trump being president that's making it that. In furious agreement with what you're saying. I love that. Furious agreement with what you're saying. Let's see what Deborah says. I find Prada is not too serious, which is a relief. A bit of fun is always there. Yeah, for sure. People are saying Eddie Simon would be amazing at Prada. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I wouldn't like it though, because right now, at least I can wear Prada because a lot of the silhouettes are really boxy, especially the outerwear. The second Adi Simon takes over, I will not be able to fit in any more Prada. That's the end of Prada for me. We're going to speed through. I'm just going to speed through some more of the concepts. Once again, we have some more of the layering seen here with the puffer jacket. We see some of the prints on the footwear, the skinny pants. We see some more amulets, which is an ode back to the protection. It's the same reason why a lot of the shearling was in the collection. Really nice pattern on the piece. Some loads of different iterations of the footwear. So many different designs. They have so many designs of this footwear. They're like anyone that ever wanted Western boots We are going to give it to you in every color, every print, every shade, every fabric, and every design to ensure that you find something that you like and you buy it by force. Something I really like styling wise, this layering I find really interesting. Because, of course, these ridiculously tiny lapels on such a boxy jacket, it forces your eye there. And then it's been layered with something that also still has quite a small lapel, but just slightly longer. So it kind of layers under. That's really cool what they've done there. You can see some more Rassimond's bulbous toe boots. I love the shape of these like bulbous. I just love it. These ultra round toes. Once again, someone was saying the scratched, worn out look. That's kind of the point. Here you can see how deliberately scuffed the boots are. Like they're literally scratches on the leather. And that is genuinely how some of my boots look because I scrape them on the floor and things fall on my toes and stuff. And over time, that's how the front of my boots start to look. Literally. It's a bit knock around the boots, immediately casual, makes me think of Midnight Cowboy, the film. Oh, that's an interesting take. Alyssa saying if Eddie Samar went to Prada, I'd have to drop 2 sizes. Well, I have to jump 2 sizes. Oh, these bags are so nice. Oh my gosh. These are really nice. And I love this like worn in look. I am a big fan of it. Perfect patina. Now we have bigger lapels on the tailoring. This is very interesting. This is such a British British way of doing tailoring. So even in the same collection, the tailoring silhouettes look really different. This is the kind of thing you'd see on Savile Row. Pointy lapels, the roped kind of padded shoulders that I think of tailors like Huntsman. Huntsman do shapes like this. Let me even see if I can go on their website so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I actually know my tailoring, guys. I actually know my tailoring. Okay, Huntsman Savile Row. Let's see what they've got on their website for us. Because that is such a Huntsman shape. They would have their roping would be a lot more apparent. But let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So you can see here, it's very like they have these kind of pointy jackets. But I need to show do they have the rope stuff? Because that's the Huntsman stuff that I really like. Yeah, stuff like this. Like with this rope shoulder here. That's a very British thing. This kind of like rope shoulder with the pointy lapels. Because when you think of Italian tailoring is way more soft. So the shoulders are a lot more slouchy, which is kind of strange because like Prada is supposed to be like an Italian brand, right? Um, so them doing very distinctively British tailoring is very interesting to see. Very interesting. Moving on, we've got some more pajama pants with Western boots. And yeah, I think at this point you guys get the point of the collection, the layering. You kind of get the gist of it. Patinaed bags, worn out, interaction with our clothes. It's fun though. I like the collection. I think obviously it's very wearable. I think the accessories are top notch. I think a lot of them will sell. And if, current Prada is anything to go by, it will probably sell because they have been doing really well. Let's see. Have you bought any Savile Row? Of course not. I can't afford Savile Row. One day, I mean, I do have a dream of going to Savile Row and having something made, but there are so many Savile Row tailors that I like. So I don't know. Like, there's so many tailors I would want to get my stuff made. Like there's Huntsman. I like the Huntsman shape of things. I do think it's slightly old school, but I kind of like it. I think in terms of a modern aesthetic, I like tailors like Chittleborough and Morgan. I think their stuff is really cool. So yeah, but Savile Row tailoring is so expensive. Like £12,000 for a bespoke suit. No, thank you. That is rent for a year. That is literally my rent for a whole year. There's no way that I am going to spend that kind of money, especially because I feel like the kind of people that spend money on Savile Row tailoring are the kind of people that have a need to wear that tailoring over and over again. I don't work in finance, or my life doesn't require me to wear suits all the time. So it would almost be a waste of money because I would get more wear out of if I bought a Prada jacket for 1K and that jacket I could wear every day versus a suit, because I just don't wear suits. So where would I wear it? It would just be collecting dust in my closet and I would have spent like 16K. The only thing I would probably spend a lot of money on would probably be a tuxedo. Like I would get a bespoke tuxedo because I would probably get one really nicely tailored tuxedo that I wear to everything. There's always a need for a tuxedo. I'm always going to dinners and black tie events like all the time. So I have a need for to wear a lot of tuxedos and like dinner shirts and stuff like that, less so than I have to wear traditional suits. But hopefully one day. That's only that a man can dream. Here we see it, some more Western inspired pieces with the knitwear, with the spikes, and of course the fringes on the side. We also see the belts as a detail. That's really cool. We've seen the shearling idea transformed into like tops, some nice loafers, lovely bags once again. The shape of this piece is sensational, by the way. I absolutely love the shape of this piece. That shape looks so nice. Like the way the shoulders sit here is so nice. And then the sleeves, I think part of what adds to the silhouette of it is the fact that the sleeves are quite wide. And then of course with the ribbing, they kind of come tight here. That adds to the shape of it. That's really nice. Jennifer says the Western trend in menswear has had longer legs than I expected. Yeah, earlier in the review, I was talking about Pharrell Williams and this Western aesthetic, and it seems like a lot of brands are really focusing on a Western aesthetic. I don't know why though. Of course, part of them using the Western aesthetic, which I've alluded to earlier, I'm not sure when you joined, Jennifer, is the fact that because the Prada collection was the day before Trump's inauguration, there are so many odes in this collection to American culture, whether that's the Western aesthetic, the Western boots, the Western fringes on knitwear, baseball themed accessories, basketball earrings. That's why. So that's their main reason for doing those things. But it's also, there tends to be a trend of like a lot of menswear collections these days have a lot of Western inspired garments. I don't know where that comes from. I need to look into that. Like, why is that the case? I would literally, if I was like a trazillionaire, would buy every single bag in this collection. These like pre-worn bags. The patinas are so lovely. They are so nice. Here we have some more amulets, but this is like kind of like a baseball chain amulet thing. Wider trousers, some more play on the layering. This is also something that they do. They love playing around and mucking about with the collars. One of the collections, they had wiring in the collars, so you could change the shape of the collar depending on how you wanted to wear it. They also do this with the sleeves, yeah, exactly. So you can play with the shape of the sleeve. I don't know if these ones specifically have wiring, but in the past they've had collections that have wiring, which is really cool. Let's see. Raby says it's because country music is booming. It has created a domino effect with Western TV shows, movies, and of course fashion. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm not too tapped in with country music, so I wouldn't have noticed that country music is booming. But that's interesting. So that makes a lot of sense why a lot of brands would be focusing on the Western aesthetic. Let's see. From a distance, like these bags almost looked invisible. I was like, why are the bags invisible? Like, you have to zoom in. Like from here, it looks like parts of the bag are invisible. Like that's so strange. Thank you very much for the super chat, Tarek, by the way. Quick hit question. Have you checked out the Martin Margiela recent auction lot? Are you talking about Kerry Taylor? Is that what you're talking about? Because if you are, then um, yes, I have. But if there's another Margiela auction that I didn't catch, then I don't think I've seen it, to be honest. But let me wait for your response if you're talking about Kerry Taylor or someone else. Okay, so you are talking about Kerry Taylor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen that. I have seen it. It's really interesting. She's been auctioning like all the. I'll show you guys actually because this is interesting. So Kerry Taylor, for people that don't know, is a very important figure in fashion. Kerry Taylor is an archivist. She's also written a book on John Galliano. I have in my ebook, I wrote about this, but essentially in my ebook, I wrote that as I used it as an example of like why you can't just trust any book and you have to still do your research and compare other books. Don't just read one book and be like, I know the history now. So Kerry Taylor made a book on John Galliano because she found that a lot of books prior had misinformation about John Galliano's work. So she made a book about John Galliano in collaboration with John Galliano himself. So she's done things like that. This is the book written by Kerry Taylor. It's called Galliano's Spectacular Fashion. And basically what she does is she goes around finding all these crazy pieces and auctions them. And she has a really crazy process of finding these things. Sometimes like someone that's really into fashion might pass. And then when people inherit the clothing, they don't have any use of the clothing. So they call Kerry Taylor. Or they get, Kerry Taylor gets put in contact with them. So over the years, Kerry Taylor has become like a mainstay in the kind of people that you would want to use to auction your clothing if you don't really know the value and if you know that you have some really interesting historical pieces or if you just want to get rid of it or whatever. So she has some of the most interesting, if not the most interesting auctions across the whole fashion industry. And in her auctions, you will literally find some of the rarest stuff you've ever seen in your life. Like old Schiaparelli pieces. Like it's insane. When you when you look deeply into these things. So on the 27th of January, she's actually doing an auction on Martin Margiela the early years. It was also really big on social media. I think she had like a lot of like sketches and stuff also from Martin Margiela, which is really interesting. So people of course have been going really crazy about all that stuff, right? And you can see even on her Instagram page, she shows like some of the pieces. It's cool. It's really, really cool. So anyway, yeah, long story short, I have seen it. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to when the auction happens. I shall be watching very closely. Oh, Lanfari says Henry Paul and Co. I like Henry Paul. It's probably my favorite on Savile Row. Yeah, I like Henry Paul. YouTube isn't letting me win. I can only super chat. Yeah, Dammy, thank you for the super chat. But why? It's so weird. Why can't you comment? Okay, it seems like you can comment. What I do is I turned on subscriber only in the chat because, especially on YouTube, on Twitch, anyone can comment. The main reason I did that is because I noticed over time that weird people were spamming the chat, like bots and stuff. So if you make it only that people that are subscribed to the channel are the people that can comment, then that will be less of an issue. You won't really fall into that problem. So that's why I did it. But it seems like you can now comment. So yeah, there we go. Let's see. I thought this shit was going to end with the rest of the 2000s throwback trend, but this indie sleaze revival is staying longer than I expected. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Quote from someone about the show. Styling in this show captures how the mishmash of ideas in his studio isn't cohesive enough to have an identity. Is that them talking about Raf Simons? I can get it in terms of thinking about the mismatch, but the only reason why I disagree with that take is because it's done deliberately. It's not supposed to make sense. The mismatch is actually supposed to be ridiculous. That's, to me, what the point of the collection is. So I guess someone can see it and be like, there's no identity. It's just things paired together that shouldn't be together. But isn't that a really Prada thing? Pairing really stupid like prints and patterns together, but somehow they work. That's supposed to be the point of it. Like, yeah, literally, like mismatch is Prada. Like that is what Prada is. So I don't really understand that. Who had that quote? I don't I don't really understand. That is kind of what Prada is supposed to be. Let's see some tailoring pieces. These, I can't lie. It's interesting as a concept, but these tiny lapels really annoy me. They are so annoying. They're so jarring. I'm not a fan of them at all. That is stupidly tiny lapels. That's so jarring. Yeah, this belt bag is something that Prada has every season. Like it's one of their big menswear bags, especially. But having it this way is really cool with that perfect patina. Oh, the patina on this with the scuff toe looks amazing. The darker tone, it looks. I like the gradient. That's really nice. What do you say? I remember I was the first to super chat in 2020. It's wavy, you get more super chats now. Yeah, I know. I have an amazing audience. And I don't tell anyone that you must super chat, by the way. Please don't feel obligated. The same thing with my Patreon or my ebook or whatever. It's a choice. If you want to, you can, but there's no, you will only learn about fashion if you buy my ebook. Otherwise, you will definitely not learn it. That I don't do that. So I do appreciate everyone that donates because it's out of your own free will. And I definitely am not using people's money to ball out of control. I use all my money to that I get from the channel to reinvest back into the channel. So how I do that is going back to the subscriptions earlier that I was talking about. I can't really afford it because I don't make that much money off YouTube, but I would love to use like YouTube money to subscribe to more things like the Financial Times and to get a Women's Wear Daily subscription and stuff like that, right? Um, so yeah, that would be cool. Do you feel that the product consumers don't really represent the brand in terms of these colorful mismatch, etc.? Mostly just standard stuff. I think that's the case for every brand, no? So every brand does really fun things, but when their ideas are filtered out into stores and you see what people wear, like most people that I see wearing Prada on the street either wear those Prada loafers with the triangular logo or they wear nylon Prada pieces. Of course, the bags, everyone, like not everyone, but you know what I mean. Like a lot of people have Prada bags, but people like those nylon jackets with the Prada triangle. Do you guys remember what was it Frank Ocean wore to the Met Gala? That Prada look. That's what I when I envision like the average everyday consumer, that's the kind of Prada that they wear. The two-piece suits with the Prada logo, like that sort of stuff. So I think every single brand is kind of like that. Every single brand is like that. The next man says, "We've seen you hack the Financial Times paywall multiple times, but you want to buy a subscription." Yeah, the reason I want to buy a subscription is to support good journalism because I'm a writer myself. So I like to put money in people's pockets and support good journalism. If it's a case of can I read the articles, you guys have seen live, I've bypassed their paywall anyway. I know how to do it. So that's not the reason why. I want to support good journalism. Because if no one pays, then these platforms cease to exist and then we just don't get the information. So I'm very much a person that likes to support the artist. Lanfari says, I hope more eccentric boots, like with the Cuban heel, and so we will see some mainstream appeal this year. Yeah, anything that just adds identity, because I'm really tired of a very monotonous aesthetic that comes from brands trying to look the same and trying to get the same customers. Also, Ray, two things can be true. This is definitely true. I agree with you in a sense that maybe they are buying the cheapest items available. That's also a good point because a lot of these runway pieces are so expensive, they will make you poor. They will put you in debt, charge you out to the wazoo for a lot of these pieces. So yes, that's also another concept where those pieces are the most accessible to people also. So that's why it might seem there's a disconnect between the things that we see on a runway and then what people actually wear. Let's see. Yep, true, except for the case with some more avant-garde brands. Yeah, because there are some brands, let's say like Rick Owens. Even though Rick Owens is very avant-garde, what people still wear isn't that avant-garde. So like, even though it's more avant-garde than usual, people wear Geo Baskets and Ramones, which there's nothing wrong with that. I own both of those shoes and I love them. And people wear like the shirts and the trousers with the long ropes. That's kind of what people wear. So across the board, you tend to see that people wear what's easier to wear from these brands. That's why there's a disconnect. Like not everyone can pull off boots like this that look really nice with this lovely patina at the toe box. People just don't wear boots that color. So that's where the disconnect is. But obviously, fashion nerds like me still appreciate it. We still love this sort of stuff. Are you planning on releasing a book? Yeah, one day. So an idea I had was I'm going to do this eventually. I announced it in my Discord. I'm going to update my ebook at one point because my ebook is like very much an introduction to learning about fashion and like what journalists you should read their writing and what journalists should you look out for. Also, things that you should avoid when learning about fashion. Also, explaining common terminology in fashion. But I wanted to expand it to more of like an ebook where it's a one-stop shop for all of fashion information from how the industry actually works to production to different fabrics and what that means, like really deep, like almost 100 pages long, which essentially is a book. But I'm trying to figure out if people want that and also what price should I charge if I make something like that. Um, so yeah, but it's something that I think about. I might write it at some point. The conversation I really wanted to have is about tailoring and the creative way people are putting it together because in general menswear, we are throwing everything in a pot and I'm loving it. Yeah, it's cool. I think there needs to be more fun in fashion, to be honest. The Road of Fashion Roadman, a memoir. I like that. I might steal that. If I steal that, I'll pay you royalties. I'll give you, what do you want? Like a 1% royalty fee? Nobody dresses the runway looks. Alessandra at Gucci was killing it, but people were buying hoodies and ace sneakers. Yeah, facts. Facts. Tell me if you ever want a help with the book layout. You know what? I would want help with that because I don't consider myself the most fantastic graphic designer. I think I'm very aware of where my skills lie and where I lack the skills. So definitely send me a message on Instagram and we can definitely do that. But yeah, that is true. Alessandro Michele. Do you know what's interesting about Alessandro Michele's Gucci though? The interesting thing to me about his Gucci, and let me actually see if I can put that on the screen just so I can really illustrate it properly. Gucci Vogue Runaway. Let's see. I don't know why my internet is acting so slow today. Like things are taking forever to load. But yeah, let's have a quick gander. So a lot of the earlier collections, especially like even the first collection. Wait, let me go back because I think his first collection was like fall into 2015. Yeah, this was his debut collection. So the interesting thing about Alessandro Michele's Gucci, which a lot of people have said, is that even if they couldn't afford Alessandro Michele's Gucci, this sort of androgynous look, people would go to thrift stores and see and find garments that are very similar and try to find ways that they could, layer pieces in that exact way. And so a lot of people's whole personal style, I'm thinking of people off the top of my head, their whole personal style was Alessandro Michele for Gucci, but it didn't reflect in the actual Gucci pieces that people are buying. Because you have the people that couldn't afford the Gucci, but they loved Alessandro Michele and just adopted that look. And then you had people that could afford it that would buy the Gucci Ace sneakers and the belts and the bags and the denim with the floral embroidery and stuff like that. That was an era, the Gucci Ace era, where people were wearing the floral embroidery denim. That was obviously an ode to Tom Ford. Tom Ford did a lot of that, and Alessandro Michele brought that back in a way. You can also say that Alessandro Michele learnt because he did work under Tom Ford, so he would have seen those things working in the studio anyway. So he kind of just brought it back. But yeah, that's something I find very interesting about Alessandro Michele's Gucci. Typical UK internet. Like, why is my internet slow? Wait. Let's do a speed test live. Why is my internet acting strange? Let's see, speed test. What's the speed of my internet? Download speed 893 megabits per second. Upload speed, what's that? 296.9. So my internet is fast enough to where it shouldn't be having issues. So I don't know what's wrong with my internet, honestly. I pay good money for this internet to make sure that my streams don't start freezing midway. So it's odd. Oh yes, the Gucci Flame sneakers. I forgot about those, but those are really, really nice. Those are really, really nice. I remember I actually wanted those. They were cool. They were cool. Even though a lot of hype beasts used to wear them, but I don't care. I still like them. A lot of hype beasts used to wear them with like the Gucci tracksuits. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Like these ones, I thought they were really cool, but the way some people used to wear them, I genuinely did not want to be associated with that. Let's see, Gucci Flame sneakers with Gucci tracksuit. Try to see. Yeah, like this is what's his name again? Ari Petru. He used to call himself the UK's biggest hype beast. The way he used to wear stuff like this. Like stuff like this is what he used to wear with the Gucci Flame sneakers. So in a way, I kind of associated Gucci Flame sneakers with people like him. But I still like the design. I would buy them now, to be fair. I think they're kind of fun. Someone say Google is lying about my internet speed. That's so funny. Oh, the Gucci Rython. I forgot about those too. That's a really good point. Blazendary too. That's a good, yeah. That's a good point. Blazendary used to do that too. Flexing internet. Can you flex internet? Is that a thing that you can flex? I was just showing my speed because I'm like, why are things buffering? This should not be buffering. My download speed is almost a gigabyte per second. I wonder if Raf will fully take over the house. Talking about Prada, yeah, I can see a situation where he could potentially do that, to be honest. I can see that happening. Because a lot of it seems like, and I said this earlier when I first hopped on the live, I think that there's a good balance sometimes between Miuccia Prada's ideas and Raf Simons, but for the most part, especially the menswear collections, it just seems ultra Raf. And maybe at some point, Miuccia Prada will want to wind down and just leave the reins of Prada to him, and she might just be like, "Let me just focus on Miu Miu." The GG monogram was everywhere. I was barfing when working around malls. Also, guys, by the way, just as a quick side note, I planned on reviewing a lot of the pre-fall collections like Valentino, Louis Vuitton tonight, but well, not unfortunately, but it's just whatever happened. I forgot that, and looking into this product collection just reminded me of this fact. I forgot that Trump's inauguration is today. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do like a live watch along of the inauguration instead and react to some of the fashion during it. So yeah, that's what we're doing instead. So I will be moving that stream to tomorrow morning. So you guys, the morning crew, you will see that stream tomorrow in the morning. So yeah, just a heads up if you see the time of that change. What time? I think the inauguration, if I'm not mistaken, starts at 5 p.m. UK time, I think. I could be wrong. So that's about almost 4 hours from, well, more than 4 hours from now. Because that's when I think JD Vance will take like an oath of office and then followed by Trump. Um, so yeah, in like 4 and a bit hours. Political roadman. The menswear guy on Twitter will be cooking them. You mean dye workwear? I absolutely love dye workwear. I think he is hilarious, honestly. Like, let me go on his Twitter and see what he's up to right now. For guys that don't know who this is, by the way, there's a guy on Twitter called Derek Guy. He's like a menswear expert and he just talks about menswear constantly, like the rules of menswear, the history of menswear, really knowledgeable. But he, a lot of times, just makes fun of like red pill men and how they dress and makes fun of like political elects and how a lot of these like people dress, which I find really funny. Um, just like even stuff like this, like all black buttons, and then one of the buttons is white, and he's like, "This is a diversity, equity, and inclusion button." Um, he's just a funny guy. I think he's hilarious. Um, and he always gives like really good tips on menswear and styling and stuff. But yeah, he really doesn't like the way that American politicians dress. So I can imagine that he is going to be going off during the inauguration. Like he's going to have a field day. Let's see. So why do you want to review this mess of inauguration? Everything is not a joke or flirty. I don't think it's a joke at all. What people need to realize, I live in the UK. I'm from the UK, but anything that happens in America politically literally affects me. So it's not a joke at all. I'm mainly reacting to the fashion. That's what, because I think fashion is really important. A journalist that helped me really understand this is Robin Gavan. Robin Gavan is one of my favorite journalists, fashion journalists of all time, and just writers in general. And she, at the Washington Post, writes a lot about this interplay between clothing and how that affects the perception of politicians, and how politicians use clothing as a medium of perception. And like Trump will wear a certain thing because he's trying to, show solidarity with working class communities in the US and stuff like that. So if anything, I'm more reacting to what they are wearing and how that's a play on how they're trying to present themselves and what that means for a wider political thing, right? Like if you look at here, we have the Washington Post, like Romy Gavin, like I said, one of my favorite journalists of all time. You can see like she's talking about the way that people are dressed, what we learnt about Pete, watching members of the President's Club at Jimmy Carter's funeral. Like that's literally what she mainly writes about, and it's so interesting. So yeah, I'm not seeing it as a joke at all. By reacting to it, I'm not reacting to it because I'm like, haha, look at this mess. That's not the intention. Lamphai says ill-fitting Xenia suit to look poor is wild. Like, do you remember what was it? Trump went to McDonald's and people were really celebrating Trump, and I was like, this is so weird. This feels like dystopian, like worship of a billionaire. Like, oh my God, this is why we love Trump. Trump is a man of the people. He went to McDonald's. It's like, you really think Trump is a man of the people because he stood behind the counter of McDonald's for less than a day? Like, people are like, oh my God, look at Trump working the fries at McDonald's. He's so down to earth. Really? Really? But these are kind of things that politicians do to try and seem more relatable. Like, look at them. Elon Musk and Donald Trump all eating McDonald's. Like, yeah, we are for the people. We eat McDonald's like everyone else. If you think that Donald Trump eats McDonald's day to day, then I don't know what to say to you. Can we talk about Trump forcing a ceasefire? Yeah, we can touch on that in the inauguration stream. But I do think that's an interesting topic. That is definitely an interesting topic. People have such low standards for politicians. It's sad. Yeah, I don't know why. People really worship politicians. I'm like, you really think these guys care about you? Wow, that's shocking. Look at the color coordination of the red tie and the yellow straps and the fries and McDonald's packaging. Yeah, that's a good point also. Like red tie, yellow straps in lieu of McDonald's packaging. Very political. Clothing is political, guys. Clothing is very political. He does eat McDonald's and a Diet Coke every day. I do not believe that. Whatever they did worked. Kamala campaign was a mess. Her fashion presentation. Yeah, I do think Kamala, and obviously this is a Prada stream, so I don't want to touch on this too much. We can talk about this later. But I do think that Kamala's whole thing was a total mess. Like, I don't even understand what their strategy was. Like, the whole thing made no sense. And we can talk about that in the next stream. But anyway, guys, thank you for coming to my TED Talk and talking about the Prada collection. I thought it was very interesting. I don't think it's the best work we've ever seen from Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons. However, I do think it was a fun and interesting collection with very interesting accessories, footwear, and tailoring that will probably sell really well and is wearable for a lot of people. But yeah, if you have any more thoughts, you can leave it in the comments. But thank you very much for tuning in, and you shall see me in a few hours when the inauguration happens.